Welcome to the Purpose Focused Advisor, a podcast for financial planners, advisors, and RIAs looking to get the most out of yourself and your business. Join Rob Brown and Phil Calandra as they walk you through a journey that will allow you to take action in your business and your life so you can be the best that you can possibly be. Now here are your hosts, Rob and Phil.
Welcome back. Time once again for the Purpose Focused Advisor. I am so excited today to talk marketing and branding. In my career, I'd probably talk about this as much as anything else, and I offer some help with that, but I am not a marketing and branding expert. But fortunately today, we do have an expert on the call. We have Kalli Fedusenko, who is the founder of the Kalli Collective, which is a digital marketing agency that specializes in helping financial advisors build meaningful brands. Kalli is passionate about marketing. Many of you have probably seen her on her Monday lunches that she does digitally. So she's out there. She's very prolific in the industry. So I am excited to include her on the Purpose Focused Advisor. Kalli, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited about this.
Yeah. So Kalli, let's talk first about how you got into the marketing and branding side of things, for advisors, because as I very quickly got started, it's something that advisors seem to want to talk about a lot. And it's important. It's very important for them.
Yeah. It all started with a newspaper ad. So I went to college for a mass communication degree thinking that I was going to be creating CD covers. And you can see the way that the CDs have gone. They don't exist anymore. And one day, perusing for a job, I stumbled upon an ad that was for a financial firm. I applied and they hired me internally to be doing some marketing and communications. And then from there, my role kind of grew and I was doing client services and some operations as well, moved to another firm. But the marketing was always my passion and what I enjoy doing the most and what I think I'm best at. So I was like, I could really do this with multiple advisors. So, I mean, there's more risk going out on your own, but it felt like it would be worth it. And so I ended up starting Kalli Collective 7 years ago now, which is crazy. It feels like it was 3 years ago.
Well, you could at least put a time frame on it, even if it's the wrong one.
Yeah, that's true.
So what is it about marketing that, makes you passionate? What is it? What is that magic that you do that you're like, when I get to do this, this is like aces?
Creation. I love creating stuff. Not only like creating, but solving a problem in a creative way. So someone might come to me with a problem and I like thinking about it in ways that they haven't considered before and then creating something to achieve that objective.
Yeah, that's I think that's a really important connection that you're making, because that's oftentimes something that I see missing with advisors trying to do some marketing on their own, is they don't see it like solving a problem. Maybe they kind of get the creative and they say, hey, I can go on Canva and create that.
Right.
But connecting what you're trying to accomplish in your marketing and branding, doing it in a creative way that makes you stand out is essential. And I'd love you to kind of spend a little bit of time talking about standing out.
Standing out. It's so difficult if you don't spend the time to really dig into it. So I'm sure you experience this with advisors too, when you say, who's your audience? And it's pre-retirees 50 and over. I'm like, okay, so you and 90% of all the other advisors as well. I think what helps is one, if you can dig into that a little bit more, like, okay, do you prefer, and it doesn't, I think people get hung up because they start thinking, if I drill down into this, then I'm only going to get people who match that. But the way to think of it is more of like a target, like you're throwing a dart at a dartboard, you're aiming for that centerpiece, you're always going to end up getting some outliers. But let's define that centerpiece of your ideal client. Who do you really want to be helping? Who do you enjoy working with? And digging into that. So, male, female, maybe they have shared hobbies or careers, anything that you can target them a little bit more makes creating messages so much easier, and you can tailor it specifically to them. So that's like the audience part, digging into that a little bit more. Then there's also the advisor themselves and how do they want to be portrayed. And I think it's a mix of what does your audience want, but then also who are you, right? Like, let's dig into that. I've got 2 clients right now that I'm consulting with, and one is very much likes working with ambitious career, I don't, not hoppers, career ladder type of people. And the other advisor likes to work with women who feel insecure. But both of them are in the same age demographic, but those are 2 very different segments of the same audience.
Yeah, I think that's a great differentiation. And I love the fact that you use a concrete example because, one of the challenges that I sometimes run into is I'm talking with advisors about thinking about that target and who that is they
Yeah.
really and truly want to serve is they say, well, there's nothing unique about me. We're all the
Right.
same. We have the same products, the same technology. Some of us have the same, 3-letter firm names behind us. So we can't be different.
Right.
And I have to quickly help them understand and tell me if I'm giving them good advice. What makes you unique is that there is nobody like you. You are the only you.
Right.
And the way that you solve the challenges or help your clients accomplish goals, even if you're using tools that others might use, is different. So you put those things together, you're not just unique, you're kind of doubly unique. And that needs to come out.
Right. And yes. And what are you focusing on in your services? So, for instance, we have a client who values everything that, we're creating. We're going back to, they want to work with people on value-based finances. And I guess I should define what that means a little bit. Kind of like faith-driven, like, what kind of moral values do you have, or what is it that you want to be a good person? Well, let's define that. What values make you a good person, and then creating a financial plan around that. Whereas somebody else is coming in, and a lot of their clients, they're helping them see: do I, am I doing the same thing that my peers are? Am I in a good place? Like, how do I compare? And so they're really drilling into that aspect. So I think the approach that the advisor takes is a great way to differentiate yourself.
Yeah. And I think really good advisors do that naturally, whether they realize that they're doing it or not. So some of what you're doing, I'm sure, is pulling out, hey, you've been taking a faith-based approach. That's the purpose that you have in wanting to grow your business. How do we leverage that? Not in a way to create fake faith, but to really to get deeper with that client because you share something in common with those people who want to think about their finances in a similar way.
Right. Exactly. So I think it makes it, I think asking the right question. So usually what I ask is, what are you selling? And most of the time people say comprehensive financial advice. But then when we actually get on a phone call and we dig into that a little bit more, we find out, Oh, no, it goes more than that. You are focusing on this aspect of the comprehensive plan.
Right. And it may not be the only thing they focus on, but it's the lead thing. It's the way that they get
Mm-hmm.
their message out there first. Because most advisors who are listening to this podcast, I think, would agree that even if you do comprehensive financial planning, you can't attack all aspects of the
Mm-hmm.
plan at the same time. You have to do it in pieces. And generally speaking, you lead with your strengths, what you think should be
Yeah.
the part of that plan that will get your client's momentum going for doing that full plan.
Right. Yes. Agree 100%.
So, um, and something else that you said when you talked about
Mm-hmm.
strategy and messaging and that bullseye, and I love that bullseye analogy,
Mm-hmm.
is I have several clients who I've helped develop weekly kind of mini podcasts where they do
Mm.
a 2 or 3 minute, 4 minute little video that they send out to their audience every week. And the
Yeah.
hardest part about them doing that is um, convincing themselves that they are just talking to one person.
Mm.
I am just
Mm-hmm.
talking to Kalli on this podcast. I want to talk to her about what she's doing and how she's helping people. And by doing that, I'm going to um, expand
Mm-hmm.
the target because more people are going to
Right.
appreciate that because they're going to see that. But when you stop to think,
Right.
well, I'm addressing this made up segment,
Right. Yeah.
it's harder. And so is that part of that setting the objective and adding the creativity just to really kind of narrow it out? Who is it that you want to talk to?
Yeah. So part of the way I solve whatever the problem might be that someone comes to me with is I focus on three things. I focus on who's your audience, what are you trying to accomplish, and what steps do they have to take to get to that final objective. Because of course you're trying to grow your AUM. Well, what are the steps that a prospect has to take for them to sign on with you as a new client, and then what are the steps that a client has to take to get to the point of being an advocate where they are telling everybody about you. And so it's like kind of thinking through that, because there are steps and them, you just don't think about them every day. And then on that same thread is you can have multiple audiences, like for instance, advisors are my target audience, but I also produce content for people who work with advisors. And an advisor is going to have the same thing. Maybe they have two different kinds of clients. There's the um, pre-retiree, but then there's the pre-retiree's kids. And then there's the estate attorneys. Like, what are you producing for each of your audiences?
Right. But it all comes out of that core uh, purpose or focus that you have in the way that you're building your business and who you're serving. And then the other
Mm-hmm.
stuff becomes a natural extension of it. And, you're not
Yes.
talking to neurosurgeons one day and
Right.
painters the next. There's something
Yeah.
that's really hard to do, and to and to
Yes.
and
It's
to
hard to
recognize.
stick to it. Mm-hmm. Because thinking about that bullseye is the easiest way, I think, to be okay with it, because you feel like you're saying no to opportunities, but you're really not. You're making it easier for your ideal client to find you.
Yeah, and isn't that the name of the game? Really,
Mm-hmm.
when we have a model that we use that kind of maps out advisors at different levels and how they kind of move up from getting
Yeah.
started to really kind of dominating, from being less than
Mm.
50 million in AUM to being 500 million or a billion. And the currency that goes up the side of our triangle that fills in the pieces is ideal client relationships. The
Mm.
more ideal clients you work with and are able to focus on in the service work that you do, the marketing that you do, the more quickly you move up that pyramid up
Yeah.
up those different levels. And what I hear you saying is your marketing can absolutely help you do that.
Yes. Yes. It's like taking that same idea and then applying it to everything you're producing.
Yeah. And by the way, for any advisor who's listening to this and didn't, especially if you couldn't see my hands moving because you're listening to this podcast, go to truistfan.com/scorecard, get a copy of the scorecard, which shows you that map. So let's get a little bit more tactical here, Kalli. Let's talk about you are engaged in a new relationship with an advisor, an advisory team. What are the things that you are doing that are moving the needle fastest for them?
Fastest. Organization, I think, is actually one of the top things, which I know is probably not what anybody expected me to say.
Yes.
But
I like creative problem solving, but I'm going to start with organization.
Yeah. Well, I think that's what gets you the fastest is usually when people come to me, they've got a lot of things going on, or they've tried a lot of things in the past. There's no real plan, and there's nobody who's like organized it. You know, the brand is like haphazard. The website doesn't follow the brand guidelines, and it's not targeting the ideal client. So it's really kind of going in and refining the brand, really, and then applying the brand to everything. And that, I think, people see significant improvement with that, followed by starting to send consistent correspondence that's outside of working with somebody. So sending a monthly newsletter, some sort of touch point, and doing it consistently. I almost always hear from a client that, oh, my clients are mentioning the newsletter in our meetings now. And so that lets me know, okay, we're doing something that's working.
Yeah. As a coach who is accused sometimes of being a little bit too process focused, I used to take that as like an insult. I go, no, I'm a creative strategy type. And they go, but Rob, you have lots of process. And I think it's the same as what you said. It's like, we've got to get organized and understand the steps before we can really move forward and maybe dig into some of the stuff that is more fun. And that's what I hear you saying. We've got to understand really where you are and what you want out of this and what you have, because I'm sure some advisors come to you and they have some resources that just need to be redeployed in a different way.
Yes.
Whereas others, they just need to throw it all away and start from scratch.
Yeah. There are, speaking about content specifically, there are several types of content that have a very long shelf life. Like videos, you can repurpose those in new ways, but we have to know what videos you have to do that.
Right. Or you may even have the right scripts for your videos because you've seen them done, but they just weren't produced in a way that drives the message home. So you can kind of take what you have and button that up. So I want to dig more into that communication piece, because I think that is something that many advisors I run into take for granted. And I'm not trying to be negative about some of the newsletter services that are out there.
Sure.
And I know that I see more of them from advisors just because I'm in touch with advisors all the time. But when you see the cookie cutter newsletter with no private or personal message from the advisor in there at all, I would submit that you probably just don't even need to be sending that newsletter. And if you polled your clients and asked them if they're reading that newsletter, the clients are going to say, "What newsletter?" As far as they're concerned, it's just the Wall Street Journal.
In fact, I just did an audit for somebody who is using one of those services. Now, they do have good open rates, but the open rates are really just telling me that the email subject is hitting. What tells me if the content is resonating with the audience is if they're clicking on the links and if they're mentioning it. And I can tell you that this person had below industry average click through rates. Industry average is 10%, and they were significantly under that.
Okay, that's those are some interesting numbers to think about because those are important because
Mm-hmm.
it's easy to get carried away with open rates and even
Right.
some of the email services that you are sending into trigger open when there isn't an
Mm-hmm.
open and but it's hard to fake the click rate.
Right. And then you can also kind of compare and contrast that to your website traffic. And so, like, because sometimes I'm like, get a report and it's like, oh, lots of people clicked on this. Okay, well, did they also actually go to that web page? Because I don't know what's going on with tracking software sometimes, but it definitely gets it wrong. So I recommend looking at both pieces. That's how at Kalli Collective we see like what content is resonating the best with our clients is seeing what pages are visited the most, what items are getting clicked on, and then verbal confirmation from the client is, I mean, I love when I hear that.
Yeah, because that's a great sign that even more people are opening and clicking and reading and enjoying and benefiting from the content
Right.
because it doesn't take everybody who um, benefits from something to tell you that, but if you have enough people telling you that, there's a multiplier um,
Yeah.
in that.
Right. Or just the fact I had somebody else who was like, every time I send out one of these newsletters, I get calls from clients. And it's like staying top of mind, staying top of mind with content that they're interested in.
So let's switch to websites. That's another.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you started with communication because that is my
Yeah.
favorite area to get my clients to focus on and think about and work with somebody like you to get it right
Mm-hmm.
because um, you have direct control over that. But websites are
Yes.
a little different,
Yeah.
and some experts suggest that nobody's going to websites anymore. That it's just a thing of the past. I'm not. I know that's not true, um,
Yeah.
but but because there are so many websites that look the same,
Mm.
and there's no differentiation, the website visits are down. So talk about websites and how do you
Mm.
make a website stand out, and what makes a
Yeah.
good website different than a bad website, and maybe even to that same point of the more cookie cutter type websites versus a website
Mm-hmm.
that is, a truly an individual or business's
Right.
own unique platform.
Now, I have seen a few good cookie cutter websites, but what makes them good is the fact that they customized parts of it. So they're not just filling the text with whatever AI prompted them, they're actually putting in their own text and their own pictures. But as far as, I mean, there's different ways you can look at the effectiveness of a website. First, you can look at the traffic. Now, traffic alone is not going to tell me how your website is performing apart from SEO, which is search engine
Sure.
optimization. Now, if you have good search engine optimization, you'll have some higher traffic because people are finding you when they're searching for specific terms. Um, Traffic is going to tell me more about the content that you're releasing and if people are clicking on it and then going to your website, or if people are sharing your information. Um, Now, if a website is effective, things that I would look at, well, of course, I'd ask you your objective. What do you want to happen on your website? If you're looking to get leads from your website, that's kind of easy to track, because
Right.
you can have contact me, call, and you can put things in the URL that are tracking if people are clicking on different areas of your website. I'm also going to look at where they're going on your website and how long they're staying there. So maybe you've released a new blog and you get a lot of traffic to it. Unless the people are staying on your page, I'd say at least 30 seconds minimum. I wouldn't really count it. Like, who cares if a bunch of people went there and they didn't read it? I'd want to know that they were on the page long enough to absorb something.
Right.
So those are the ways that I would look at if a website is performing the way that you want it to.
So you have those people there. Your SEO is dialed in.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of advisors stop there. They think, well, this is great. I've got great traffic. People are reading my stuff. But truth is, you don't get paid for people just reading your stuff. So how do you kind of coach through your marketing and branding kind of the monetization of that? Because you want people to show up. And there's no doubt that probably, or I shouldn't say no doubt, it seems to me that the only people who kind of push their services, I hate to say it that way because it sounds so negative, more than the website pushers or the newsletter pushers, are the lead generation pushers. And so I think that's where some of the mess happens. So you've got that great website.
The people who are emailing us every day about, hey, do you want to get 1,000 new leads?
Yeah. Or like, we can get you 25 appointments a day. Well, I actually have to sleep. But anyway, I said, try not to be too negative, but I think understanding, and I'd love to understand kind of your perspective on how you turn that website traffic, that good content into something that actually helps drive the business forward. And not that it has to be driving business forward today. I imagine in your answer, I'm going to shut up. Please answer my question. Don't just stop me from answering it for me.
Right. Well, in the beginning, I mentioned the 3 things I use to solve problems. And the third item is, what are the steps that your prospect or client has to take to achieve that objective? And so you want to use your website to have them take another step, whatever that, and the steps are going to look different for each advisor, although there will definitely be some similarities among all advisors. But let's say you want someone in their journey, they come across content on social media. They're interested enough to follow you. You release a piece of content. Now you want them to click on the website. After they're on the website, well, now you want them to put their email in so that they're getting emails consistently from you. Then maybe you put them in a drip campaign where you're sending very specific emails about the thing that they had put their interest in. So maybe you released a blog on 529s. Now you're putting them in a drip campaign where they're receiving emails about a 529. And then maybe 3 or 4 emails in, you're, hey, I would love to get on a call with you. And you get them on that call because that's the next step. And then the next step is a discovery call. And so you just kind of work through it. How can your website assist your audience in taking the next step?
Yeah, that's awesome advice, because that is, I would imagine you would agree with me, one of the biggest mistakes many advisors make in their marketing is they think it's a one-step situation. I'm gonna get in front of somebody and they are going to call me.
Right.
At least,
and then sometimes that happens, but they have to be in a place where they are in need of something.
Right.
And generally speaking, people aren't in need all the time.
Right. I think the statistics say that 3% of the audience that sees your message needs it today. But by doing the steps that you suggested and increasing that number of touches to 5 to 7 to 10, you're
Right.
increasing your opportunity of being in front of that person when they need what you want,
Hmm.
but also you have now given them more value perhaps than other people that they've been in contact with. That so you are the
Yeah.
expert in that, and so they're going to call you, and so that
Yeah.
consistency and staying with
It's
them
like
really
dating.
matters.
That's how I describe it. We're dating the prospects, and rarely do you walk into a relationship and say, "Do you want to get married?" On that first interaction. Sure, it can happen, but it's rare.
Yes, yes, yes. It's not always love at
And I
first
would
sight.
say, yeah, and I would say that SEO does help increase that number of your audience who's in need, because generally you're searching for these things when you're in need of a solution. So SEO, I think, is important in that
Yeah.
regard.
Yeah, I'm not trying to dismiss any of it, but I think it's just
Oh, sure.
what you've done today, I think in our conversation has helped us kind of put the puzzle of all this marketing and branding
Mm,
together, which is probably why you say the greatest, quickest, fastest impact you have is getting people organized,
yeah.
because you have to get organized to
Yes.
understand what it is you're doing. And this audience that we're talking to of financial advisors, that's what they're doing
Mhm.
every day with their clients and prospects is they're saying,
Yep.
give me all of your information, ask these questions so I can help organize you. So we put this plan together. It's working towards the thing that you want to accomplish in your life, the goals that you want to
Yeah.
accomplish, or the objectives, or the challenges that you want to overcome.
It is kind of pretty amazing to me, these similarities between uh, marketing business and then financial advice business.
Yeah. No, I think it's very similar. So we need to get ready to land the plane here. So I need to ask you, what's, if you were to
Mhm.
make one blanket recommendation, like, or
Mhm.
what the next, what if somebody's listening to this thinking, um, maybe I need to audit my branding and marketing. What's the first thing that somebody should do to kind of get that ball moving? And of course, they can always contact you, and we'll give your contact information here in a
Mhm.
second. But just one last piece of advice.
Oh, it's hard to pick just one thing. I mean, the first thing would be filling out my scorecard about how your marketing is doing. Um, and I had a URL it goes directly to, and of course, my mind's going to go blank on what it was. I know there's kallicollective.com/marketing quiz. Apart from that, I would say sitting down and um, writing out your client journey. Like, if you're going to do it yourself, that's what I would recommend, is sitting down and thinking about um, the steps someone takes to stranger to advocate.
I absolutely love that, because that helps so many
Mm-hmm.
different aspects of your business, not just your marketing. And
Yeah.
it's an important question for advisors to be able to answer. And it's funny sometimes how
Mm-hmm.
difficult it is for advisors to answer that question, even though they're hugely successful, and
Yeah.
they could guide. If you sat a new person down in front of them, they would guide them through it masterfully. But you say, okay, now let's actually write this out, and the next thing you know, it's like the 6 steps of financial planning. Get
Right.
introductory meeting, gather. It's like, no, 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 no. What are you actually doing? That goes back to
Right.
what we are talking about, being unique in terms of the way you serve your clients and how you serve them.
Yes. And I think sometimes if you can find a trusted partner to help guide you through that, ask you the questions, because when you're doing it on your own, it's easy to get stuck. In fact, I have a whole talk that I do about why your marketing should be like a two-toed sloth, which all came from the fact that in the last year or so, I've come across several advisors who they get stuck in moving forward. And I think sometimes you just need a little guidance on how to get unstuck.
Right. Well, they've got two great people on this podcast to think about them because
Yes.
whether you're looking for some marketing help or some coaching, we're good at getting people unstuck, and that is
Mhm.
so true in most things in life. But I just see it over and over again with the advisors that I run into is they are creative, successful,
Mhm.
sometimes very brilliant people that just need a little nudge to get to that next
Yeah.
level, whether they're trying to brand up or level up with their AUM. It doesn't matter. And getting
Right.
unstuck is just so important.
Sometimes you just need someone to ask the right question.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I didn't even think of it.
Yes, yes, that's very much the case. Well, Kalli, this has been great. This has been a wonderful conversation. I know that the audience who's listening has some steps that they can take if they're really looking to up-level their
Mhm.
marketing and branding, including contacting you. And I will make sure that in the show notes, there's very easy to get to you and get to your marketing scorecard. It's a great process that I went through just to check it out not too long ago. So I think it's a
Yeah.
great process for getting the ball rolling and also to be able to reach out to you and say, hey, Kalli, I need your help.
Right. Right. Yeah.
So,
Definitely check out the show notes because my name is not spelled how most people think it is.
yes.
It's
Yeah, that's
Kalli.
Kalli. Yes, but we will definitely get that out to everybody. So, Kalli, thank you for being with us. To those of you who are listening, thank you for listening in this week. Of course, we will be back next week. And remember, as always, we are rooting for your success. Have a great week.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of The Purpose Focused Advisor. If you want to learn more, head over to our website, truestfancoaching.com. There you'll learn all about becoming a purpose-focused advisor. You'll also find today's show notes and links to the other gifts and resources we talked about during the episode. Again, thanks for listening, and remember, we're rooting for your success.